Good evening, folks. Happy Friday. It's Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight I want to talk about Tuckahoe Road and also Ron Matten's The Bridge. He has some good things to say on there, and I want to discuss that. And teen shootings here in the city of Yonkers. Let's talk about it.
Ready wins.
Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Let's talk about Tuckahoe Road and Ron Matten's podcast, The Bridge. Definitely does not go into Spanoland, that's for sure. Have you been watching Ron Matten's podcast? I liked the last one he did. It was pretty good. So check it out. If you haven't checked out Ron Matten's podcast, The Bridge, he's very informative. He's very, he brings the facts and he breaks it down really well. So check it out. But anyway, folks, I want to talk about first a post I saw on NextDoor App in regards to the Tuckahoe area, Tuckahoe Road area, I should say, and what's going on there at the Shoprite. And I actually mentioned this on NextDoor App, and I felt that I was attacked. People were saying, Freddie, they're not bothering anyone, or here you go again with your negative news. And really all I was doing was just giving an update and showing the area. I was up at the Ramada. I showed that there were a bunch of, mopeds and bicycles and kids' bikes and even lawnmowers, and people didn't like that. But this guy, Joe Pinto, and I'm not disagreeing with Joe. I'm not saying anything bad about Joe. He puts up a post. A lot of people liked it, but I want to share it because this is a warning post, I guess. It says, seniors beware, young individuals roaming the Shoprite parking lot on Tuckahoe Road, claiming they are from another country and saying you have money for them. Keep alert as you are going to and from your car. Hey, City Hall, pay attention. You welcome them into our city. Yeah, many people are wondering, next door's racist whites. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, you have to understand, I'm not against the migrants. I'm not a racist, but we also have to understand what impact does it have to the city, right? It definitely increases the population, something that we're dealing with in the schools, not just on the roads with traffic and stuff, but in the schools, we have a lot of kids. We're overcrowded. We need to build 3 schools. They're almost going to be complete with 1, but we need 2 more. Also, in terms of housing, there's a housing crisis here in the city of Yonkers. Yes, we see buildings going up, more residentials, but they're not really affordable for everybody. Although, some of them are taking, subsidies and stuff like that. But, people are still having trouble finding affordable homes. And as more people come here, that's more people that they will have to compete. They see more foot traffic on Tuckahoe Road. You see people kind of loitering and stuff. This is some of the complaints that people have said. So it does have an impact to the quality of life, right? And, maybe some people are racist, but there is still an impact that it's having to the city of Yonkers. And people are going to feel it if they're not already feeling it. And we have to be fair to the people that are from here. We already have a large homeless population. If you go down to Getty Square area, I mean, it's getting bad. It hasn't gotten any better. It just seems to be getting worse, city of Yonkers. Hopefully, once everything is done, maybe it'll be a lot better, True, the citizens don't have resources. We have helped our people, then we can help everyone. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest complaint. I'm not against the migrants. I want to help human beings in general. Let's just have a plan, right? From what I understand now, they're going to be in the Ramada up until August of next year. Initially, it was February, but now it's August. The city of New York is now asking for funding from the federal government and the state. I believe Kathy Hochul is talking about giving $25 million or $1 billion, I have to put it up, for housing of the migrants, right? So they're going to start paying, for their housing, renting homes. Mayor Adams even proposed $100 a day if you can house a migrant in your home. If you have a spare room and you want to make some money, $100 a day, why not? By the way, though, that is considered single room occupancy. Check with your insurance policies before you do something like that, because if you do have a fire and it originates in that room you're renting out, you can see your insurance claim denied. and you would have to come out of pocket. So, but that's just some of the things that they're coming up. Yeah, they're coming up with a lot of that stuff. So, again, and that's taxpayer money, right? We're already struggling to fully fund our schools. You hear our elected officials constantly blaming Albany for the lack of funding that the schools have. We need more money. Albany is not giving their fair share. It's just not right, So we have to consider that as well. And we have to consider where we're going to place the children, as there are, families that came here. And from what I'm told from City Hall, they're about 18, 3 to 4 year olds. That's UPK, right? So, that's something that we have to figure out. Last year, a lot of kids did not get UPK placement because of lack of funding, I was told. Some parents were told there was no more space. There wasn't enough UPK providers. So I don't know, but there was definitely an issue where American kids didn't even get placement in UPK, right? So we have to just figure that out and be fair. If people are loitering, especially at certain times, if people do feel uncomfortable at the Shoprite. There was also reports of hepatitis outbreak. I did reach out to City Hall. They said they spoke with the county. There was no reports of it. However, I had multiple reports of it. So I just wanted to put it out there so people can be safe. That's all. Whether it happened or not, it was actually also mentioned again recently. But I was attacked on the Yonkers Newswire and all those other, sites for mentioning that. So I took that to mean that it may be true, right? Because they attacked me for it. So it's got to be true. It's definitely got to be true. Check out Anthony Moranti, the Republican running for mayor of the city of Yonkers this November. There's an election. If you don't know, the mayor is up. Mayor Mike Spanoland is the incumbent. He's running again. Changing of the term limits. You should know all about that. And in fact, today I met a guy from the Bronx. And he said, "Hey, Freddie Vasquez," and he shook my hand. He said, "I felt like I'm meeting a celebrity." So I kind of felt strange. I was trying to find the garbage can, because I don't like to litter, but I had a bunch of garbage. And he says one of the things that bothered him, and he watches the show from time to time. He said one of the things that bothered him was the fact that they extended the term limits. He didn't like that at all. And this is a guy that's a homeowner from the Bronx, now living in the city of Yonkers, So, and I welcome you to Yonkers. He said that he knows that I dislike, I don't like people from the city. I want to make sure I clear that up. I don't dislike people from the city, right? I just don't like the city feel, right? That's why I love Yonkers. That's why, it's always been, where I wanted to be in New York. It was close enough to the city, but it wasn't the city, right? But now we're becoming the city, right? We see the double parking. We see the traffic that's heavy now, the congestion. The mopeds are all over the place, whether they're licensed or not, whether people are wearing a helmet or not. And I think they should make that a law. I've seen young people on these mopeds, men and women without helmets. It's just dangerous, right? I'm not trying to, I'm just saying it's dangerous. If I know from riding motorcycles, you don't have to go very fast. If you fall off and you bump your head, you can really have, you could die. You could just die. My friend had a concussion and he was just rolling the motorcycle, but it slipped onto the sidewalk to put it away, and he had a concussion. So it's very dangerous. So this is Debbie Koziak. I wanted to actually touch on this. District 16, if you don't know, there was that whole issue with Christopher Johnson, the former county legislator, Christopher Johnson, who had the housing scandal, who moved out of his district when he purchased a home out of his district. According to the charter of the Board of Legislators here in Westchester County, that is an automatic, you automatically give up your seat, right? So technically he wasn't the county legislator for over a year because he gave up his seat once he moved out. So there was that whole scandal. He lost anyway in the primaries to Shanae Williams, but Shanae Williams is not, out of it yet. She still has to go up against the Republican Debbie Kozak. And Debbie Kozak, someone that I've met and I spoke to many times, seems like a very nice lady. I don't know a whole lot about her, but she seems like a nice lady. She's a stay-at-home mom, I believe, currently, but she's running for District 16 county legislator. There has not been a person who has not been Black or of color, I think Black really, that has held that seat for a very long time. So she's already has that at a disadvantage, right? The area is actually becoming less populated by African Americans and is becoming more Hispanic and actually white, as you get more people from the city coming into that area to move into the waterfront apartments. But the Black population here in the city of Yonkers is dwindling, especially on the northwest side, where there was a larger population of Blacks here in the city. And now you see all the movie studios and a lot of those properties being bought up, and houses are actually being knocked down to make way for more studios. So you have the demographics certainly changing there. But can a white woman win in that district? Can Debbie Kozak, a Republican white woman at that, win in that district? Well, if you are someone who's looking at the individual, realizing that parties nowadays shouldn't be a factor in the way you vote. It should be what the person seeks to do. Can they get it done? Right? What's their track record? Even if they were already in office, Shanae Williams, she has a track record. She was the councilwoman for District 1, which is in District 16. And what did she do there in her tenure as councilwoman, right? Did she do a good job? If you're happy with all the development that's gone up, you would say she has, although that had nothing to do with her at all, really. She's just there. But look at the Getty Square area, right? Look at the crime that's going on in the stores there, the retail theft, right? And there's a housing problem there in that area now as the rentals, the residentials go up. The housing around it is bought up by investors. They renovate them, they jack up the rents, and that's causing people to be have to find somewhere else to live. They're being displaced, right? And so, what has Shanae Williams said about that at time as a council person? Does she care anymore? She's moving on up to the county. At least in her mind, she's got it, in the bag, right? So, white Republican. Can a white Republican win in that district? Debbie Kozak has been speaking about the migrants at the Ramada. That's something that she actually is against, right? She's actually vocal about it. Again, November Republican Debbie Kozak, a community activist, right? And you wouldn't know it. Housing is one of her big issues as well. And I guess she's on the ballot and they're saying you wouldn't know it. I don't know if she's been quiet or she hasn't been vocal enough. I don't know. Maybe I don't understand politics or running a campaign that well, but I feel like you need to be in your face all the day long, every day, just reminding people, I'm running, I'm on the ballot. This is why you need to vote for me. This is why I'm running. This is what I'm going to do. I'm out here. I'm showing you. And I will say this, Debbie Kozak has been out there in the community. I appreciated the fact that she went and met with the family whose son ran away, and the family was very scared and very upset, and they didn't really get much support at all from the elected officials, any of the officials that represented the district that they lived in. But Debbie Kozak was there, and in fact, I watched as she sat with the family and she went through the rosary beads, saying the prayers, and that takes a while. You see all the different beads there, and she sat there and actually took the time to do that. You don't really see elected officials spending that much time with people, especially in that situation. They'll come in, they'll say a few words, and then they keep it moving, right? So I can appreciate that. That says a lot to me, right? That shows the human side of this person, and it's not just about the being a politician, right? Having the seat. So Yonkers has become a dumping ground. Let me start up here. She's not happy that the city of Yonkers put out the welcome mat for asylum seekers sent north by New York City Mayor Eric Adams to the Ramada Inn on Tuckahoe Road. She says the immigrants could pose a hardship on city services such as police and city schools. Yonkers has become a dumping ground for the illegal immigrants from who NYC, a sanctuary city, decided they must accept. Kozak states on her campaign website, the responsible entity to absorb the long-term costs associated with housing, medical expenses, education, legal defense, safety, and other services remains unknown. What is so are the needs of these individuals, what will impact the existing residents of the city of Yonkers, and more specifically, Westchester County District 16 for years to come. And I understand that. I get that. She makes good points. I think sometimes maybe just the fact that it's coming from a Republican, from a white woman, that right there, it's racist, right? It's racist. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I just think she's truly concerned with who's going to pay for the housing, the medical expenses, right? The safety needs, the education. Also, how are we going to acclimate the students, right, that are coming from across the border that don't speak English. We don't know what level of education they're at currently. They're going to need to be assessed, right, first before they're placed into schools, and what grade are they going to be in? They're going to need medical evaluations, right? These are the things that all of our American kids go through, right, with the vaccines, the shots, and all of that stuff. By the time they reach a certain age and a certain grade, have these children gotten that? And again, I'm not saying trying to be negative, please. It's just saying this is a fact. We have to get them acclimated, and they need to go and make sure that they have all these things done, as every other student has had it done, right? Also with COVID, there was that big whole thing when people were coming across the border. Were they infected with COVID? Did they get their shots? Although, that I don't believe in it, but some people had their fears with that. So that's a valid fear for some people, is what I'm saying, right? So these are true concerns. Who's going to pay for it? Is the city of Yonkers going to now have an issue with financing a lot of this stuff? Will this put the city in a hole? The city is already almost in $3 billion of debt, right, that we're carrying over. So what will this do? What financial impact will it have? What impacts on quality of life? What impacts on the education? Will it increase crime? And not to say that all migrants are criminals, but we have to be honest. Some of them are going to be criminals, just like we all got some criminals in our families, right? Let's just be honest, right? And so what impacts will that have? Also, if people are now, housing migrants because there's this new thing that they passed where you can get $100 a day, I'm sure a lot of people are going to jump on that opportunity. Will we have a lot more fires and stuff going on here in the city of Yonkers? Because that single room occupancy stuff is dangerous. Sounds like she cares about the current issues, what's already going on, and can't carry extra weight until the issues we have already got get taken care of. That's true, and that's always a thing. We compound the problem when we add more issues, right, rather than dealing with the issues that we have now. And again, for me, one of the issues is education. How will we, be able to educate the kids that came here when we already have a huge need with our educational system? What impact is that going to have? Are the students who are here, American students, going to, have, less of a educational, quality because of it, right? And it's just a fact of life. And I can give you examples of teachers who have been frustrated because they want to be able to teach, they want to be able to do a great job, and especially if they put under this pressure of having to make sure students are passing these exams, and there's this certain percentage that they maintain, right? But then they have to take time to address the needs of children who don't speak English, who are behind because they came here from another country. And this is already happening. It's not just the migrant children. It's even, children that are coming here, through the traditional channels, right, that have already been coming here, and they're already in the schools. And, I know from my wife, her experience in the Bronx, especially, she would see this a lot where, a lot of the kids there would, coming from whatever country, they were fresh from the country, the parents as well. The parents didn't speak the language, the children were learning the language, but it was a struggle, right, to communicate and to be effective in assuring that they got the best quality education and that, they go on to succeed. And I'm not saying they're not, many do, because many come here to really work. One thing about, people who come here from other countries, I'm not trying to knock us Americans, but we are kind of lazy. We are spoiled. We are entitled. We've gotten used to everything kind of being a little bit easy, a little, the plan's already set, do this, that, and but, we've gotten lazy. We don't want to take a lot of these jobs. And I see this now when hiring and dealing with employees. Some people, they feel like they've been, it's beneath them to work for a certain, I'm like, I mean, what experience you have? What what background? I mean, you got to work your way up. You know what I mean? And so, then they want to be flexible. Oh, but I can't work at this time. Oh, I got to do this. So I got, it's becoming difficult. And other business owners have said this to find good quality, employees. It has. So, many times when, people come to this country, they don't take it for granted. They hit the ground running. They go hard. They work. They build up a lot of things. And a good example of that is the thriving Mexican community here in the city of Yonkers, right? If you go down through Main Street, you'll see all the businesses, right? You'll see, know about many successful business owners who are Mexicans, and as well as Dominicans. Dominican community also, see many Dominican business owners, and that's growing, right? So, I don't always, want to sound negative. I want to be positive, but we have to look at these, things that are definitely going to be a factor, right? Ron Matten, shout out to you. But Freddie, Mike Spano claims a 95% graduation rate. Spano reformed the curriculum with his magic wand. Yeah, Spano says 95 or 90%. I didn't know exactly what the number was. They just said 90 in the 90%, right? I did see something not that long ago where Dr. Casada said it was in the high, I believe 88% graduation rate. Again, a point that someone make, and I forgot who it was that said, that may be so, but when the kids graduate, and they go to college, many of them end up coming back to take remedial courses, or many start out having to take remedial courses after they graduate. So are they really able to apply what they've learned, in that time in high school, and they graduated, right? You think that they'd be able to, right? So it's that shows that maybe, they're getting, pushed through just to show a certain graduation, or maybe that the numbers are being fudged, which is not, a conspiracy. It's not hard to do, and that's happened in other districts out throughout the country, right? And there's pressure on the teachers, right, to get students to pass the regions, to get students to graduate, right? There's this pressure on teachers, and when you add that pressure constantly, right, sometimes teachers, may do what they need to do just to get them through, just to get that pressure off them. It's tough. It's a tough business. Definitely a tough business. You only need a GED to run for clerk's office. you're not you title your podcast The Bridge, but it's definitely not bridging anything there between you and the Spanos, right? It's not bridging you to Spanoland. But I do want to talk about it because you did bring up some good points, Ron, in regards to the news guys. And this is important to know for everybody, because many folks get their information from a lot of these news pages, some of them that you refer to on your podcast, and we have to understand that they're not always feeding us the right information. And they do that because they're paid, that they're paid by the city. They have this loyalty to the city. If they want to continue to generate the income that they've been generating from the city, they have to make sure that they're not making the city look bad, right? Whether they're told to do this, or they do it because they know that they want to keep that good relationship and that money flowing into their pockets, whatever the reason, they still oftentimes don't present a clear picture or a truthful picture, right? And one example I constantly give is with the term limits, right? Rue Rose on the Yonkers Voice, he made it seem like very few people were opposing the term limit extension. It was maybe a handful, he said, of people in that room, and I was there. It was a lot more than a handful. He said everyone else was supporting the extending of the terms. But what he didn't say was that the majority of the room was filled with city employees who had been told to go there that night. I even shared text messages that were being sent out to city employees telling them to go. They also held up signs that had been printed, copies of these red signs that they all held up, obviously in an orchestrated, it was an orchestrated thing, right? It was organized. And who paid for those copies? Was it the taxpayers? Did we buy the ink and the paper to give out to those people, right? And he never mentioned that. He made it seem like it was so many people that just wanted this term. So that's misleading, right? That's misleading. That's painting a false narrative. And then people may believe that and may be influenced by that. That may also scare people who may be interested in running against certain candidates if they feel like everyone's supporting. I don't know if I could win. They may not want to challenge. And that's what's happened. Many people didn't enter the race for mayor because they knew Mike Spano would be running again. And they just didn't want to even waste their time, as they said. So, you have to understand that this is what they do. They're paid to do this. They're also paid to attack people who speak in opposition or who try to present the truth to the folks of the city of Yonkers, and they will attack you. Or if you don't pay for advertising, as in the case of Ron Matten, as he found out when he wouldn't pay the Yonkers Voice to advertise or do an interview on his page, he ended up getting attacked by the attack arm of the Yonkers Voice, Brian Harrod and his Yonkers Voice. That's where all the dirty work is done, right? If you are on the good side of the Yonkers Voice, then you get put on the Yonkers Voice. If you're on the bad side of the Yonkers Voice, and the city, I should say for that matter, you get put on the Yonkers Newswire. And you don't want to go on there, right, folks? So I wanted to play a little bit of Ron's podcast from, I believe, yesterday.
We don't get coverage anymore. There used to be, in fact, there was a press room in City Hall so that the press could get their daily news briefings, could get the news that came out of City Hall. We had a lot of news coming out in the 70s and 80s. Back then, we had a little bit of different type of government. We had a city manager versus a mayor. The mayor.
So he's talking about, the fact that Yonkers has always, and Westchester County has always had these newspapers. Back then, obviously, before the internet and social media, they were printing them. You can go and find them at local stores or whatever. And this is what the politicians use to create these narratives, right? To paint pictures, to influence people into voting for them or believing whatever it was that they wanted them to believe, into supporting them. And that the politicians of that time knew just how important it was to be able to control the media and how powerful of a tool that it is, right? And he goes on to speak about the Spanos and how quickly they realized that when they were up against Martinelli and his big publication that he had, as the Martinelli family was well known for their publications. I'm not sure of the name, but Martinelli was the mayor of Yonkers for 16 years or something like that. And so the Spanos, he says, Ron, knew that they needed to have their own news outlet and, a way where they can get out their message. And he says that today that's what the Yonkers Newswire and the Yonkers Voice are. They're also the arm for a lot of other individuals like Zahi Jeris, a guy that is a campaign manager for many of our elected officials that are currently elected on the council. So it's pretty much they've consolidated the power by controlling many of the council members, right? And so he talks about all this, and I think it's just very important to understand this. Let me see what else.
And more of them are involved in politics. Well, out against our elected officials, whether it was Mike Breen's ad, those are bought and paid for, and they're in violation of the of political ads with the Board of Elections because they're supposed to indicate that it's a paid political ad, because you're required to give him money in order to post. What he texted back to me was posting is advertising. So, and I suspect that's one of the reasons that his page got shut down, because he was not only in violation of Facebook's rules, but he was also in violation of the Board of Election rules.
So recently, I don't know if you guys know, the Yonkers page, the one we had all, the most followers, was taken down because he was in violation of some Facebook policies as well as the Board of Election policies in terms of advertising. He wasn't announcing that his advertisements or his interviews, anything he was doing with elected officials, were paid advertisements, right? He's supposed to let that be known to the people that they're paying him, because that makes a difference. If okay, well, they paid this guy, so of course he's going to say these positive things. Of course he's going to, do this interview in a way where it's going to make them look good. He's not going to push them on issues. He may pretend to, right, act like he's challenging them on certain things, but the reality is that he's going light, right, and he's giving them an opportunity to actually put a spin on it. And so that's what you have to watch out for. I mean, again, the car chases, the overdoses, the gunshots, he's good for that, right? Politics, not so much, right? Not so much.
Because many times the elections log, and you'll see that you have the Yonkers Voice here, and he's at 32 Ashburton Avenue in Yonkers. And these are the candidates that are given to him over the time. I believe that says about $42,000.
Wow, 42 grand.
And that's only from the political ad revenue. When you see something on there for Lusitania, or you see something on there for the Charter School of Excellence, they're being paid to post those ads. And again, by the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, you should be indicating that those are paid, sponsored ads.
So the guy's made right there $42,000. Ruros, the Yonkers Voice. How do you think he goes on those trips? He doesn't have any other job. That's what he does. $42,000. And like Ron Matten said, that's not including the money he gets from like the charter school, the CSEE, and other organizations that pay him to advertise. And they're directed to him. They're directed to his page. That is part of the agreement. Go to the Yonkers Voice. If you're a business, advertise in the Yonkers Voice. If you do right by us, you want permits or whatever. This is what you got to do to keep money in his pocket, to keep him happy. So he probably makes a lot more than that, maybe $100,000. And so, again, many of the people that I have spoken about, that I have exposed here on Basement Politics with the help of the people of the city of Yonkers, have paid this man to advertise or promote them or something for them. So why do you think he attacks me? Because his clients want him to, right? His clients have told him to. He told me about it already. The Yonkers Newswire is his partner, Brian Harrod, right? So that's very important to know that. These elected officials work to create this narrative using the Yonkers voice, a pedophile, a man charged with sexually abusing a girl. And yet our elected officials will sit next to him, pay him to do an interview, slap in the face to all sex victims, including his victim who still lives here in the city of Yonkers. Is that okay? Would you be okay with our elected officials sitting next to a man and funding a man, helping build up a man? Because he didn't do this all by himself. He didn't create this Yonkers voice all by himself. Remember, when his page got shut down by Ron Matten, his new page was being promoted by who? You saw it on official Yonkers pages. They were helping promote his page so we can get his followers back. Have they promoted any other news pages? Have they promoted Basement Politics? Well, they wanted to. They offered me the same deal. I said no. I turned it down. And I've not taken $1 since. No money. Maybe a few dollars through the stars that I jokingly put up and I don't know how to remove. I was doing that to make fun of Ruros, right? I think I got like $3. Thank you guys for the $3. I haven't cashed out yet. So it's important. But also what's interesting is that the checks that these officials are writing to him were made out to 40 South Broadway, which is City Hall. And specifically to room 107, I believe Ron says is the city clerk's office, or the former city clerk's office. Right? So why would they make that mistake? It's supposedly a mistake, according to the Yonkers Ledger. He says he looked into it. But what kind of a mistake is that? How do you just say, you know what? I don't know what his address is. I'm going to assume is City Hall. I'm going to assume the Yonkers voice address is City Hall. Why not call him and get the correct address? That's what they did when they wanted to know the address to my business, in which I had written checks out to officials. What's the address? They called me, right? So why did they call him? Why did they just assume it was 40 South Broadway, City Hall? Right. So you have to understand that these individuals, and I like that he did that on this podcast. So check it out if you didn't see Ron Matten's podcast already. And before I go, folks, this is tragedy, man. Young kids, man, these young kids in this, what is that music called? Drill music, drill rap that has taken over. I'm a hip hop head. I go back to the days of Wu-Tang Clan, Biggie Smalls, Nas, my favorite rapper, because, Nas, I know my family, my parents used to call it, my dad used to call that, I don't know if this is a racist thing, but I'm going to be honest. He used to say that jungle music, that noise. I don't think he was being racist. My dad never expressed that, but I just think he just thought it was a bunch of noise, banging. But it was hip hop. At least what I listened to had a message in it. Nas, painted a picture vividly of what we were going through. He may have been talking about the shootings and the drugs and stuff, but it's what we were seeing more so than glorifying. These days, the music is glorifying the violence, glorifying the drug use. The rappers are younger and richer, and they're buying more guns, giving it to their homies on the block, and these guys are shooting each other up with AK-47s and banana clips. Thank God that has not gotten here in Yonkers, but some of the kids here in the city of Yonkers do belong to gangs. Some of them aspire to be rappers. Some of them aspire to be drill rappers. Drill, the type of style that is encouraged by gang members, that originated from gang members out in Chicago, has reached all four corners of the country, and we see it here in the city of Yonkers. Now, whether or not this teen shooting had anything to do with that style of music, that's not what I'm saying. But that type of music has become more popular among our young people, and it is definitely an influence. It's definitely an influence. Ever heard of Ice Spice? Well, I caught my daughter listening to Ice Spice. She's on that Barbie song with Nicki Minaj. Well, technically, Ice Spice is a drill rapper. You don't know? Don't be a munch. A 16-year-old boy shot on Highland by a 17-year-old.
They're now behind bars for a shooting that killed a third teenager in Yonkers. News 12's Lisa LaRocca in that community with this update.
3 young lives and 3 families destroyed by senseless violence. People in this neighborhood say it's so very sad and frustrating.
It was crazy. It was insane. I came home from work that day and the police had everything cordoned off.
Louis Shuford says the scene in his Yonkers neighborhood several weeks ago is something he can't forget. It was about 6:30 back on July 28th when officers were called to this apartment building on Highland Avenue. They found 16-year-old Farrell Aguas Vivas of the Bronx lying on the ground in the parking garage of the building.
It's unfortunate that it happened.
First responders administered medical aid and rushed Aguas Vivas to the hospital where sadly the teen was pronounced dead. Investigators say they discovered Aguas Vivas was in a physical altercation with 2 other male teens in the parking garage. The fight escalated and police say one of the males fired gunshots at Aguas Vivas, hitting him once in the upper left area of his back, causing his death.
I just feel like this generation of children are out of control.
Eventually,
This generation of children are out of control. I'm sure that our parents would have said the same thing about us. And now here we are saying the same thing about the young generation. I'm saying it's different. They're a lot more disrespectful. And I'm not saying all of them, I'm not generalizing, but there's a lack of respect that many of the young kids, they just don't have these days. When it comes to older people, especially, I mean, for us, even in the street, we might curse at each other, right? But when an elder says something to us, we would shut up. Didn't matter if it was our neighbor. We still had respect, whether she was our mother or not, right? But it seems like kids these days don't, and they don't have respect for human life, for each other's lives. They're just so quick to pull a trigger. And I don't really think that they have a full grasp of the impact, especially when they hear it in the music and they see it in these videos. It doesn't really seem like real, but it is real. And they end up destroying their lives forever. One kid is dead. Another one's going to go to jail. Families destroyed. And for what? What are we doing? There are things out there in the community, programs. I am hearing about it, but we're still hearing this same story. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Have a beautiful night, folks. Have a great weekend. And City Hall, we're going to talk soon. This is why you need me.
My dad's Freddie Vasquez. You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
Folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Shout out to the guy I saw today from the Bronx. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. And I do like people from the city. Not that I don't like people from the city. I just don't like the city feel. I'm not a big fan of the crowd, the traffic, the congestion, but that's my thing. But I don't want you to think I don't like you, right? Welcome to Yonkers, right? Welcome to Yonkers. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Have a beautiful night, and thank you for watching. Keep watching. Please make sure you share the show. Let them know. Freddie Vasquez.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.
Freddie wins.
Check out Matten when you get a chance. Shout out to my beautiful wife. I love you. She seems to be very happy with everything. And to all you in that crew that's hating because Freddie Vasquez is on the rise, I'm going to come to the table whether you like it or not. So don't make yourself look like a fool. Either way, I'm going to be there with my knife and fork, ready for my steak. Medium well, please.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
Pass the green bean.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
I'll pick up the tab. How about that? Actually, Ruro's he's making those money.